Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Adventures in Truth livecast. My name is Jim Case. I am your host, and I'm excited to be back. Been a few weeks, lots of amazing experiences going on in there. Can't wait to share them with you. The next few shows, we're going to have some very interesting topics around all kinds of different stuff that's been going on. So I'm excited to do that. But today, I'm really excited about the show. I have my friend Paul Diamond on today, Ayahuascero. Powerful teacher, and we're going to get into his bio here in just a moment. But he's coming to us live from Peru in Pisac in the Sacred Valley, and we're going to talk to a little bit about ayahuasca and our relationship with fear. And I think this is going to be a great conversation. And we're going to also spend some time with Paul and talking about what he's got going on at the center as things are opening up and as we're able to travel. I know that I see in my own process, I see lots of people looking for places to experience it, and I can't think of a better place to go than having that experience with Paul in his center. I got to experience Paul a little over 3 years ago, and in Peru, and quite a life-changing and transformative experience. And we've had a wonderful relationship since, which for me has been pretty incredible, given the distance and given the type of situation that it is. That for me, this is kind of what it was about for me, was being able to continue this growth and evolution in my life. And so I'm very grateful to have Paul in my life, and thrilled that he's here today. And we're going to dive into that all in just a moment. I want to say, if you are out there and watching and listening, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, let people know we're here, share us around so more people can find out about Adventures in Truth. And what else? Thank you. Thank you for being part of the show. And we're going to take a quick break. And on the other side of the break, we're going to dive into some other good things. So we'll be back right after this. Okay, and we're back. Hi, I was going to do my commercial, but my buttons have been rearranged, so I have to explore my buttons a little more thoroughly to find out where things are. But anyway, Fear's a Choice, guys. I want to talk to you about my book. If you have ordered it, thank you. If you are, there it is, fearsachoicebook.com. I'm a little rusty because it's been a few weeks, and I find myself kind of clinking around a little bit. The Fear's a Choice book, this book is a powerful tool for changing your relationship with fear. And why I say that is pretty straightforward, that our relationship with fear really drives a lot of what happens in our world. And what I know about this book is it can help you to understand not only the evolution of fear in the human experience and in your personal experience, but the ways that you can change that relationship, and understanding that relationship is purely driven on how you interact in it, and the choices that you make and the beliefs that you have that surround it. And I think what Fear's a Choice does is it really helps you to change that relationship from the inside. So it isn't the kind of book where you're going to be given lots of Band-Aids to put on things. This is going to take you into your experience and take you into a review of the things that will help you better understand your relationship and how to change it. So www.fearsofchoicebook.com, powerful book. I think you'll find it's amazing. If you've ordered the book, if you've read the book, I'd love to hear about your experiences. The reviews on the websites are great. If you go to my website, fearsofchoicebook.com, you can read those reviews. You can order the book through the various links to Amazon and Barnes & Noble and IndieBound and all those places. So Fears of Choice book. I hope you check it out. Powerful stuff. And I have to look here because I don't know why I'm not seeing the thing that I'm looking for. And so we'll do this one for now. Okay, guys, we'll see you on the other side of the break. All right. My world is good. How's your world? My world is good. This is a self-created year of conscious creation from my perspective. 7.5 billion unique worlds that inhabit this planet. And I say these unique worlds very specifically because your world is your creation. And how I say that and why I say that is because no one can live your life for you. No one can change your life for you without your consent or involvement. No one can create your life for you. So your world is being created in every moment and every day. And in that creation, you are seeing the world outside of you. You're having perception. And that perception is the reflection of the beliefs and ideas and thoughts and things that you carry about your experiences. So my world is good as a way to add this kind of neutral, positive statement to your world. And as you add this energy, the idea from my perspective is that we begin conscious creation, not only within our own process, but within a collective process. And why is that important? Well, I think if you look into the world and you see how things have evolved, particularly over the last decade or so, there's been a consistent kind of negative movement, at least apparently negative movement. And I said to myself, there's a lot of this stuff I have no idea how I'm going to impact. I have no idea how I'm going to engage it. And this idea came to me, well, use my energy, focus my energy into the goodness in the world. My world is good. Just start to build this idea of goodness in my own world. And then realize that as each of us do this and bring this energy on board, we kind of align in that space of goodness. And over time, we begin to create a tipping point because we begin to influence the mass consciousness in a profound way that I think helps to change the momentum of the energy that has been propagated before it. And so this is a way that we can actively create change and actively create influence. My world is good. 10 times when you wake up, 10 times at the end of the day. Use it throughout the day. And even more importantly, when you're using the exercise, focus into your world on the things that you appreciate. Focus into your mind and into your world and actively build that appreciating energy so that as you're focused into my world is good, there is a deeply emotional content that's stimulating and expanding that energy. My world is good. I ask you to be a part of that and jump on board. It's a pretty powerful process. And now we're going to jump on the other side of the break. And when we do, we're going to bring in Paul and get this kicked off. So we'll be right back right after this. All right. I want to take a moment and I did prepare myself, silly person that I am, but I want to take a moment to share with you some information about Paul as we get started. And so Paul's an initiative, a wide variety of mystic and spiritual traditions. And for over 20 years, he has been meeting and studying with spiritual masters across the world. He has been initiated into the ayahuasca tradition by the legendary shaman Paul Aziz of England, by Don Agustin Rivas of Peru, and by Don Lucio Pandura of Peru. He's also an initiate in the Mongolian, I don't know all these words, but Buryat shamanic tradition, and is fully trained Hungan in the Haitian Vodun tradition, and has been initiated into the Nepalese shamanic tradition as a Bon Yakri, I believe, and a Purba priest. He's also been initiated into various streams of Tantric, Yogic, Taoist, and Sufi mysticism and is currently training to be a Taoist priest in the Zhang Yi lineage. Paul is also a trained acupuncturist, Kundalini yoga instructor, Gijong, Tai Chi, and internal martial arts instructor, as well as fully trained massage therapist and teacher in the Thai massage tradition. He holds 3 degrees, including a bachelor's in study of Chinese medicine and acupuncture, a master's in the study of mysticism and religious experience from Canterbury University in England. And following his shamanic path, Paul is called to work in the service of the goddess Kali, who remains his main guide, teacher, and master. And with that, I am excited to say hi to Paul once again. Hey, buddy, how are you? Great to see you.
Jim.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much.
Today,
Been a while.
It has. I know there's been with pandemics and traveling, and but the good news is Peru is open, and the center is getting off the ground again, or it's already on the ground, but getting to
it's taking off again.
Taking off again, which is great to hear and exciting. We're going to talk more about that a little bit later in the show. You're going to look to learn about Paul Center and all the stuff he's got going on there. So today, our conversation really is, I was really excited I was thinking about this show, and it just occurred to me, it's like, wow, these worlds, these 2 worlds, my whole world is about talking to people about their relationship with fear. And as I thought about my own experience, and I've, as you read things and, on message boards and the stuff that people go through around coming into ceremony or going through ceremony, coming out of ceremony, the thing that sort of winds through it all are varying levels of their fear that becomes evident in the process. And so as I thought about my own process and I thought about those things, I thought, geez, this would be a great conversation, because I don't know if people really attend enough to, we talk a lot about intention and we talk about calling, but I don't know that we attend much to bringing people's awareness to their fear levels. Not only around the idea of ceremony, but how they carry fear in their world, because how they deal with fear will have a direct impact into their experience with ayahuasca, I believe. And as an intro point, what are your thoughts on that? Just jumping off the ledge right there.
Yeah. I think that really any strong emotion is heightened, made more apparent and obvious under the influence of really all the entheogens or psychedelic medicines. They're amplifiers, let's say, of whatever is already there, as well as being able to open us up to other states and realms, etc. But primarily, at least in the early stages, they're amplifiers. So whatever's going on in the system, be it worry or fear or whatever you're going through on an emotional level on a day-to-day basis, is going to become expanded in some way. And obviously, the deeper the emotional energy, the more likely it is to come out under the influence of the medicines, and more likely to play a role in the what unfolds for the individual. Not always. I would say there's also, you drink enough or you do enough of whatever entheogenic medicine it may be, and you transcend the realm of personal emotionality, even down to the level of fear, I would say. So it does depend on quantity, and it depends on circumstance and things like that, but it definitely plays a major role. And of course it can play a role in whether or not a person is going to finally go down that path. Of course, if there's so much fear, they're probably not likely to in the first place, really. Prevents a lot of people from engaging with these very, very powerful medicines, unfortunately. Necessary scenario. I mean, it's an unnecessary scenario. We can understand that fear is there, and we just acknowledge it, we recognize it, and we continue to do what we were going to do anyway. It's the way that I kind of look at it. We don't let it stop us, essentially.
Yeah, and I think that's a powerful perception or a powerful perspective, because there, each of us comes to our, in our own path has addressed some of these things in varying forms, depending on how you're approaching it. There are a lot of people who are coming into the ayahuasca experience, I think, who may have limited experience, or maybe limited isn't the right word, but haven't had the focus into their own kind of the depth of their personal experience. Maybe they're kind of evolving into their own, but haven't. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, and maybe I shouldn't go that direction because it almost sounds like it's a judgment of, and it's not what I mean. So let me flip this a different direction, because where I really wanted to talk about it is this insight that I had that really kind of struck me about the way that an individual is in fear. So that there are some times that people are just fearful of stuff. They're not necessarily carrying a core vibration that is in fear, but they do have fear of spiders, fear of X, fear of Y, that they never really deal with. They don't really address because it doesn't seem like it's a big deal. It's not something they encounter every day. But when that fear and the medicine come together, that's where I think, as I was talking about in the stuff that I wrote about the show, I was getting this sense of that being like, that's where you get challenged in feeling like you're in a what was the words that I used? I'm not remembering, but being sort of, as opposed to being a bad experience or a bad trip, so to speak, it becomes more of walking through a haunted house or a where the things that show up initially, it's blowing up these fear bubbles, and so it's sort of like you're going through either this freak show or this kind of craziness, and people get weirded out by that because they think something's wrong, when really it's just bringing to life the stuff that we carry unconsciously in our energy. And that if that fear is a little more deeply rooted in self-anger or self-hatred, that's where you're going to find more of the really darkest potential ceremony type experience, because that's what the medicine is doing. It's trying to bring forward the thing that is that foundational thing that is keeping you from being able to be all that you are. Did I get there from here? Did that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
I kind of talked in a circle for a minute.
Yeah, no, I think I understand, and I don't disagree at all. I think that it's well, one thing I perhaps do disagree a little bit is actually I would say that everybody carries that kernel of fear. I would say is everybody's really carrying it. That they are aware of it to, lesser and greater extents depending on the level of personal awareness and practice and that kind of thing. I think that actually is there in everybody, and it has the potential to come out through all kinds of activities and thought patterns, and whatever it may be, is actually it arises in those bubbles that you describe in everybody's life in a million different ways throughout the course of even a single day. So I think that we have to come to that realization on the medicine in the end. We can go through, and we do go through the sort of the individualized fear patterns, etc. But I think it's a major teaching of the medicines that actually we do really have that kernel of fear within us, and that actually it's the one thing, the only thing, although it manifests, in manifold different ways, it's the only thing that really keeps us from understanding that we are the pure love of the universe. It's that. So I think we have to face it anyway at some point, and it's there, all of the time. It's how much do we acknowledge it, and how much does it manifest in the medicine is dependent. But actually, at some point, we've got to go to that very deep root.
Yeah, I hear that, and that's really, I think, where I was really wanting to focus into, particularly the idea that when you're looking at this, your personal relationship with plant medicine, in particular ayahuasca, that there be a consciousness about it, so that it's not, I wake up on Monday and I go to do a ceremony on Wednesday, that there is not, I mean, like from point A to point B, oh, I want to do a ceremony, I'm going to do it on Wednesday, without giving yourself the time or the space to connect to where your energy is, what's going on in your own field, and particularly having at least a little bit of a relationship or understanding with how do I relate in fear? Where am I panicked about this experience? What does this stimulate in me? Because I remember very clearly when I signed up to do my ceremony, I remember Jen said to me, like the last thing she said is, remember, you've already started the process by virtue of signing up, by virtue of engaging to do this. You've already introduced Mother Ayahuasca into your world. So be prepared, because the next few months are going to be this experience of unfolding, getting you ready for this meeting in person. And I took that quite seriously. And so I went, for my own personal process, went to a space of, okay, how can I best approach this? And I thought, well, surrender seems to be the best way to go. So every time my mind wants to try to define the experience, I'm just going to surrender that. And I'm going to keep surrendering into my experience, so that whatever shows up is going to set me up for the best possible experience. And that's really, for me, what happened. And so I when I started to think about the relationship with fear, and I thought this would be great for people to understand a little bit more the importance of it. Isn't about a time thing necessarily. It's about, as you enter into that relationship and you call on that energy in your own experience, then be prepared to spend time in that energy, getting ready to meet it, getting ready to dance, because the difference in the experience, I think, can be like night and day. If you become aware that you're carrying a huge chunk of anger that you've never resolved before, and you let yourself start to let that inform you to begin to break it down in advance, then when you get to ceremony, you're not getting beat over the head with this big block of anger that's sitting in your energy that needs to move, right? So it isn't that you're going to take it all away, but your conscious awareness of it shifts your perception within the construct of the dance with the medicine, because now it's not a thing you're afraid of. It's just something you're moving past. And you can do that in a way that's very less traumatic than having it blow up in the middle of ceremony.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
So,
actually, in sort of traditional magical practice, it's always recommended that you don't jump in at the deep end with that kind of stuff, but that you have counselling and guidance and therapy for some years even beforehand. Now, I don't think that's exactly necessary for this work in particular, but I can understand the value of this. Of course, the more work you do outside of ceremony to clear and to become aware of and to bring into consciousness all of these unconscious processes, the less you need to go through them in ceremony. Yeah, that's definitely part of the course. The other side of it, of course, is as well, though, that actually the medicine is designed to bring up these things. It's how do you relate to it in the moment, really.
yeah.
Is the medicine wants to go in and it wants to bring up these very, very deeply held conditionings, and you have the choice really in the moment whether or not you're going to react in a sort of a neutral, equanimous, calm and even fashion to what is arising, or whether you're going to run into states of craving or aversion with what is arising. And only really the sort of equanimous mindset is going to be the one that really liberates the trapped energy of that situation. Running towards it is not going to do that. It's just going to perpetuate it. And likewise, running away from it or denying it or suppressing it in some way is also going to kind of generate more of the same energy, basically. So I think that we can go in, we can do all of the work outside of the medicine anyway. The medicine is just kind of fast track in bringing it up to the surface, and then if you have the right guidance and the right sort of understanding of the material, then even if it comes up in a very terrifying form, you still realize at least that it's being purged, it's being released, it's not being sort of fed into.
Yes. I remember so clearly, and I want to offer this too because of the work that you do. When I was in ceremony, the thing that was so extraordinary to me was everyone is having such a deeply personal experience. And I think we had 15 or 18 people at the time as a part of the group that we were in. It was about that many, something like that. Anyway, but there were varied extremes of the things that we're talking about. I remember clearly we had one guy who went into that whole anger rage space and just was, you'd thought he was going crazy town. But you guys were so powerfully connected to holding a space that we all got to experience it. And the thing that was so remarkable about his experience on the end of it was sitting in group with him and having him say to the group how extraordinary the experience was, because while he was going off the deep end in his own world, unraveling stuff, his overwhelming experience was he'd never felt that much love in his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
He never experienced the kind of love he experienced in that environment, even though he was in raging hell for an entire ceremony. He'd never experienced that depth of love. And that to me speaks to the incredible power and the incredible space that you hold as the shaman and ayahuascero of this process, that if you come to it in a space of at least being open, being in surrender, being prepared to know that you're going to be standing in front of yourself in ways that you've maybe never seen before, and then turning that over so that somebody like Paul can carry that energy, can hold that, and create the space for you to unfold that, is absolutely remarkable when you think about all the things that all of us go through individually, that we can sit in a room collectively and stand in front of ourselves, and there is someone there who can help us to do that. And I had profound experiences that I had no idea what to do with, and you were able to navigate those and guide me in a way that propelled me ever since. Has it been an easy journey? Not necessarily, but I never looked for easy. I was just looking for the path,
Yeah.
So that's really my intention here, and I'm loving the stuff that you're talking about, because it speaks to all of that. Yes, you do some of the work coming into it. We're all doing the work, but the more, if you, like anything else, if you're going to invest the time and energy to go this deep, why not put the time and energy to be prepared for it, so that you're not going to grow a little plant, you're going to grow a big tree or a big bush, or you're going to get this fertile soil that's going to be prepared for you to step into that potential. But either way, like you said, it's going to get there one way or the other. Just depends on how you want to go through it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, sometimes, obviously conditions change when they're brought into awareness. So even kind of mild inquiry into one's own nature and the blockages that one holds and stuff is obviously going to still be an extremely useful activity. But sometimes we need something as powerful as these entheogenic medicines to really go in there and uproot the things that actually, even though we may have been able to bring them into perception, we're not really necessarily able to deal with them. We don't necessarily have the tools to be able to kind of, dig up the roots of those deeply held, conditions, essentially. So the medicines are actually extraordinarily powerful at kind of digging up the roots, let's say.
Yeah, and they do it extraordinarily well. I think the relationship. So, whoops, wrong one. So we were. I think for me I want the message that I most ultimately want to create through this is, because it doesn't matter whether this has been like with psilocybin, with mushrooms, with ayahuasca. The things that you hear seem to be the same. And so understanding your relationship with fear, it doesn't mean you have to get the whole picture. It's understanding, to me, that there is nothing to fear about who you are. Who you are, while you've made choices and while over the course of lifetimes have done things that you may not be thrilled about looking at it from this perspective. Ultimately, as you said, we are sourced in love. So shifting that relationship with fear, that you are something less than that or somehow not that, is to me, the level of that is what creates the strain or the potential stress of your journey experience. The further away from that idea that you are divinity seems to be the rubber band that causes the biggest snap. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a legitimate thought?
I think this is getting down to it now, really. So, of course, what is fear? It's the ego's protective mechanism. It's the thing that prevents the ego from admitting to its own inherent emptiness and spaciousness and really non reality of it. And it throws up fear as a mechanism to prevent us from really inquiring into the nature of the ego. because of course the moment we really do that, we see through its games and its illusions pretty easily, actually. So the stronger the ego, the stronger the fear. And of course, once we either see through the illusory nature of the ego, or we penetrate through to the other side of fear, of course, we find the same thing. We find the source of love, we find the source of divinity within ourselves. All of that, we see that it was always there, in fact, just being covered up by the fear and just being covered up by the nature of the ego complex. So really, ultimately, when we're talking about the eradication of fear or the movement through and away from fear, we're really talking about also movement away from the ego, from that constricted aspect of the personal psyche into a much more expansive space of being.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great way. I love the way you describe it, because it's just understanding the journey. It's recognizing. I mean, if you're coming to the medicine, there is a recognition of more. There is a recognition at some level that we are not this, because why go there? You know what I mean? Like, if there isn't this questing or this desire, and so that kind of leads to the second part of it, which is the building of the relationship with ayahuasca. And as I alluded to earlier, if you're thinking of it, and as you said, as if you think of it as something that's designed to kind of come in and uproot some of these old these beliefs and these ideas and these flawed concepts of who we are and where we come from, the building of that relationship is similar. As I was talking about the book, the things that are most profound to me are the ones that go from the inside out, not the things that you slap a Band-Aid on your skin. You slap the Band-Aid on and hope you're going to feel better. If your approach to ayahuasca is thinking that this is the Band-Aid that's going to make you feel better, you're kind of in the wrong clinic, because it's not going to give you Band-Aids. It'll take your arm before it'll give you a Band-Aid. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean it's like recognizing the arm is an illusion, so the Band-Aid is pointless. That this relationship, and again, builds from the point that you start to contemplate this, that you want to think about it. This becomes a sacred dance to me. And it's important that if you're going to call on an energy and begin to interact with it, that you have a consciousness and an awareness, at least, that things are going to begin to change. The influences are going to start to happen. You're going to start creating things in your world via that influence to start to show you in real time what may or may not be in the way of having the deepest possible experience or creating the best possible experience, depending on how you want to look at it. Any thoughts about that? Am I moving in the right direction as far as how you would step into that relationship, or making it too complicated?
No, I think I get where you're coming from. I think it's like anything, isn't it? Really, it's like any tool that we employ for our own transformation or evolution. Obviously, the more we engage it on its own terms, without our prior prejudices or biases and belief systems about what it is or what it might do. But when we begin to seriously engage with these tools, in a reasonable manner and on their own terms, the tools' terms, then obviously we're going to get much more benefit. That's obviously par for the course, as it were. Any superficial engagement with anything is not going to go deep enough. So ayahuasca, like anything else, is not a magic bullet. It's not going to solve all your problems in a single go or anything silly like that. No. So it is a work. Of course, no one can say how many times you need to drink the medicine or anything like that, but there's no doubt that one can build relationship with it in such a way that one is really continually evolving over a long, long period of time. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I think that was also something that was very powerful. Is I think that when you enter into the relationship with ayahuasca, that it's understanding it's typically never a one and done, because most of us have never had the type of experience or the type of experience that you go through in ayahuasca. I don't care if you've done other things all over the place. I don't think you can be prepared for that experience in that fashion. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. It's just,
no, it's constantly evolving and a changing experience each time you drink the medicine. Even if you're drinking the same medicine with the same people and the same environment, you will have a different experience each time. So it's, ayahuasca is very multifaceted. It's, a vast field of phenomenological activity. It's not a one-time only type of experience, and it's not a one-state only type of experience, unlike some other medicines perhaps where you generally go back to the same space and the same kind of levels of realization and stuff. Right. Ayahuasca is infinitely expandable. It never stays the same ever, really. You're always growing, so it's always growing.
Yeah, and the environment that you choose to do it in is huge. I mean, when I went through my experience, there was there were 4 ceremonies in total, but 3 with ayahuasca. And I know for me, it took me until the hours before the next ceremony before I actually felt like I could do another ceremony. There was so much integration and so much that happens that I remember going, I don't know if I can do this again. And then sitting in it, and then 4 hours before the next ceremony, after going through a day of integration, so the clouds lifted or whatever it was, and then it was like, oh, okay, I'm ready for the next step now. And I feel so fortunate that was the process, because each one had a very specific and very powerful impact. But as a collective, it was this unfolding process that I got to then carry forward into my life after the fact. But I felt like I had a more completely unwrapped package, rather than I got this thing and I don't know what to do with it. It was more like, oh, okay, here I had this thing and now I got to peel it back, and then I got to open it up, and I may not comprehend all of what's here, but I've got now my plate that I can take back with me into my world and start to figure, unfold these things that have happened. And I think that was a profound part of the relationship that I've had since then, because I can continue to call on that energy, even though I'm not necessarily I'm not taking the medicine. I still feel the influence, and that if I get confused or I need some help, I can call that energy inside me to help bring clarity, help bring more understanding as I continue to evolve. And this is 3 years later, guys. This is, it still has that kind of an impact.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes. This is a long-term relationship. We can be quite subtle about it and say, in fact, that actually, it's a choice that we make outside of this lifetime to engage with the world of spirit and energy and consciousness and divinity. We kind of make that choice outside of this environment, and then if we've made that choice once in our lifetimes, then actually we're continually affected by that and by that choice. And obviously, when we engage with the medicines, they're a very, very obvious manifestation of both that choice and the energies that you are orientating to in that choice, let's say. So it's kind of like you made the choice, you're given the guidance. It's like that, and it will stay with you.
Right on. I want to throw up here, this is a graphic. This is Paul's center. We're going to transition here into Paul's segment, but Tantraya is Paul's center as tools for transformation. www.tantraya.com is one of the ways that you can get there from here. And you can find out. I'm going to turn it over to Paul here in just a second, so that he can tell you all about the good work going on there and the ceremonies and programs that are going to get started here. And are you ready? Are you ready to talk to the people? All right, I'm going to step out for a sec, Paul. This is going to be all yours for a few. Holler at me. I'm going to be right here, and I'll come back and we'll talk some more about it.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Okay, so thank you, everybody. So yeah, I run a center in Peru, just outside of Cusco, about 40 minutes outside of Cusco in the Sacred Valley, Peru. Very, very powerful energy spot. Very, very ancient and strong energies here. And my center is primarily it's a healing center. We have weekly ceremonies where we were drinking ayahuasca once a week. And then we're also running workshops and classes. I teach Qigong and internal martial arts and yoga. And this is the kind of practices that the community who have grown up around the work and have grown up around the centre sort of partake of on a regular basis. So we're doing practices sort of, you know, on a day-to-day basis between the workshops and between the ceremonies, between retreats. We've got a nice community of practitioners going now and, you know, constantly moving in the direction of personal liberation, collective evolution, and compassion, wisdom, these kinds of ideas. So primarily, however, we're running retreats, and the retreats are a constantly evolving program, depending on what is necessary for the individuals that are there, depending what the group energy is there, and also depending how my own evolution in this work is going. So at the moment we practice internal alchemical practices taken from the Taoist tradition, taken from the Kriya Yoga and the Kundalini Yoga traditions. And we use this as the backdrop of our work. We're doing physical practices, we're doing breath-based practices, we're doing mind and focus-based practices. And then we're including, along with that, a few Buddhist modalities. We're practicing metta bhavana, practice of loving kindness, development of loving kindness. We're also practicing Tonglen, which is where we very deliberately breathe in the suffering of other beings, and we very deliberately transform it and breathe out whatever that being needs in order to gain healing and clarity and space in their own life. So we're doing some very transformative practices that have the ability to really cut through the root of the ego at a very, very deep level, to sort of move through the self-clinging and self-craving and greed and, you know, selfishness, essentially. So these form the background of the work. So we're practicing from 8 o'clock in the morning to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day. And then in the evenings, we are conducting puja, where we ritually invoke various deities who are understood to be facets of our own being, not considered to be objective autonomous entities, but considered to be none other than the deepest aspect of our very own being. And then we are engaging with work with the ayahuasca medicine under the realm of the gods and goddesses. So many shamans utilize animals and plants as their major allies. And I work with some plants, I work with some allies, but animal allies, but essentially I work with gods and goddesses as my allies. And this is just as a result of the kind of work that I've engaged with as a shaman and the kind of practices that I've done in my past has enabled me to kind of go to that level. And the purpose of all of this is liberation, is freedom, not a transcendental view, an immanent view where divinity is embodied. It's not considered to be something outside of the physical. It's considered to be completely part of the physical, and a kind of a complete opening to the fullness of our being, which is so much greater than we could ever imagine. You know, we've been conditioned to believe that we're very small, and we've kind of brought into that. But however, doing this kind of work really makes it very, very clear that we are so much greater than that very small view of ourselves. So we're running a retreat every month. We're running private ceremonies every month, and we're running classes all day, every day, pretty much. And yeah, it's kind of growing very, very wonderfully. The people are evolving in very, very extraordinary ways. And we welcome you to come and join us and to be part of the community if you want to stay long term, or to just come and do some work with us in the short term. I don't like people necessarily just to run away from the world. I think it's a good idea to come and do some work, to learn and grow from that, and then to take that back into your own communities, into your own lives, rather than seeking to run away from or to escape your lives. The work needs to be applicable. It needs to be applicable to you, to your life, where you are. And otherwise, it's not really much good to us necessarily. So come and be a part of what we're doing. Take that work back with you, transform yourselves, transform your communities, and we look forward to seeing you.
That was fantastic. I got to tell you, that was every bit of that was awesome. And I want to reiterate a couple things here that I think are significant, and they were significant to me. And that was something I thought a lot about before I went into this is that I wasn't looking for a way to get high. I wasn't looking for how can I find the next cool experience. The thing that really sold me and really brought me to meeting Paul was exactly the last things that he said, which is this is a whole being experience. This is, I want you to come here to crack it open, to get to start to see it and get to start to work with these new aspects of yourself, and then take it back to your life and make it integrated into the life that you have created, or use it to change the life that you no longer want to be a part of. But it's a conscious process of engagement that is about transforming your life, which will transform your world, which will transform others' worlds by virtue of the energy that you bring to this whole process. And so being able to go have the experience and then have the support to walk in the world, to find my gifts, to find my strengths, to find how I can bring this healing and love to the planet via this vehicle, because this is what I came with. You know, I didn't come with Paul's. I didn't come with anybody else's. I got mine. So that's the profound thing for me is that you get to do that. And again, here we are having this amazing conversation over 3 years later, which to me is extraordinary because it's showing where the rubber meets the road. This is what it's about. It's crack it open, start to work with it, and then look for the help that you need to navigate it, and then integrate it, and then see where you end up, and then see if it's time to go back for more, to go to the next level, whatever the case may be. And you may be called to work with the medicine, and that's great, but that's a very clear calling, and like Paul said, not one where you're not an excuse to run away from your life, but because that work is part of who you are organically and what it's calling you forth, what's calling forth from you. So once again, I'm going to throw this pick up real quick at tantraya.com. You can check out all the cool stuff that's there. And Paul, is everything there now for ceremonies coming up over the next few months and classes that you have going on and all that? It's all, they're all ready to go?
Yeah, there's a calendar there up till February, I believe.
Oh, fantastic. Now, I know you had Patreon, and I'm assuming you're still using your Patreon. Is that something you want to talk about at all here, as far as how other ways people can be engaged with Tantraya, even if they can't come to Peru?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we've split the work up somewhat. There's two extra sites. So there's the Patreon site, which is patreon.com/Tantraya. And on Patreon, we have all of the recorded information that I've put out there so far on the Taoist methodologies, the Tantric methodologies, and the yogic technologies. And they are individual classes of over an hour long. They're also 15 minutes on various topics and things like that, different practices, and showing you how to fit the whole program together so that it becomes a useful working model for yourself rather than just another form of entertainment. And then we've got over on Squarespace, we've got our Shopify account, and the Shopify account is Tantraya Mystery School. And that is all of the Western mystery tradition stuff. So there we've got stuff on alchemy, we've got stuff on magic, we've got stuff on talisman making and Kabbalah, and fairy magic, and some ancestor magic, and the stuff that is sort of more akin to the shamanic and magical traditions rather than the mystical traditions of the East. These are more akin to the Western way of approaching spirituality and mystical engagement. So magic is a major part of that. The Western mystery tradition is really a part of magic. So
what was that one? What was that one again? That was where?
That's on Shopify. That's Squarespace.
So
Shopify.com/Tantraya Mystery School, I believe.
Shopify.com.
Yes.
/mystery.
I think so. Tantraya Mystery School, something like that. I can't remember.
Well, we'll put it there that they'll I want to put it up so people can see it.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's see. Go to Shopify, Tantra Mystery School.
I believe that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
that's
there's
all
lots of
they're
these
all
amazing options.
They're all courses. We've got lucid dreaming, we've got astral projection, we've got astral magic, and they're all 1 to 2 day workshops. So they're kind of 8 hours in some cases and 5 or 6 hours in other cases. And there's a huge amount of information there. If you're at all interested in just opening up on a psychic and magical level, that work is for you. That will take you very, very far if you were to engage all that material.
Fantastic. So that's part of the mystery school there, shopify.com/Tantraya Mystery School. We may be slightly incorrect in the title, but you'll get there from here. But love it. There's all kinds. That sounds amazing. All the courses that are available there. And especially if you're considering working with Paul, or you're considering diving into the medicine, what a great way to kind of wend your way into the experience by touching into some of these things that he's teaching and offering, to kind of feel your way into it. And to see where you are in relation to all this, so that before you make that big leap, you can say, I'm ready. I feel like this is the next step for me. I really think that's important as we wind this up today. As we talked about, really this ayahuasca and understanding your relationship with fear is foundational. And we each come at this from a different perspective. So however you can walk this in a way that feels authentic to you, but also helps you to, every step should feel, while it may feel either potentially disconcerting or you're walking into a whole unknown, it doesn't generate fear. It generates a sense of spinning energy up, or enthusiasm, as I call it, the energy up experience or the energy down experience. If you're feeling that spiral, if you're feeling that lift, then follow that feeling, so that you can begin to unfold how and why this medicine can be powerful for you. The more conscious you can come at it, I think the greater the experience. Not from a control viewpoint, but from an openness viewpoint. So there isn't much cracking that has to go on, and more opening that's happening without the cracking. What are your thoughts about that? Or does the cracking come anyway?
I think it comes anyway. I'll be honest, it comes anyway. But obviously, we can prepare the ground. We can prepare the ground. In the end, we have to embrace mystery. In the end, we have to embrace the fact that it is the unknown, and that the unknown is always going to be fearful for people. It lies always outside of the parameters of what they already know, what they already experience. So there's got to be some kind of acceptance that we're going to go into something difficult, something uncomfortable, but with the knowledge that we're going to expand as a result of that, and that we're pretty unbreakable. You can go very, very far into very, very difficult states and come out much better than you went in.
Yes, and I will just reiterate: surrender is always, to me, the best way to go. If you can step into it in any degree, the more it creates that opening that allows for more. And that's really why we're doing it, right? Isn't that why we're stepping into plant medicine? We that sense of more, that sense of desire of understanding more, or even feeling like there's more. Engage that and honor it, because I think that the other thing that is, if you can understand or enter into this relationship in a conscious fashion, I think it really changes how you enter into all relationships. And I say that not being woo-woo, I just considering to myself that the work that it took to be prepared changed the foundation of how I approach my world, because that idea of surrender for me became such a foundational place. And what I mean is that it doesn't mean that I forever just, not dealing with it. Just means that I can act when I'm confronted with something that I don't understand, that I'm stepping into a realm that I've not experienced before. Rather than go to fear, I can go to surrender. And I can say, wow, this feels really weird. This feels really uncomfortable. This is challenging. And I'm going to surrender because I can feel the energy is moving. The energy is moving up, and I want to continue moving in that direction. So I can surrender to just as best I can each moment. Sometimes it's a breath. But yeah, I think you're right that ultimately, we don't know what we don't know, and there's a lot we don't know. Paul, is there anything you'd like to say in closing today? This has been a great conversation. I'm so happy that you're here. I'd love to give you the last minute here to share your message about ayahuasca and fear, or whatever you want to share at this point as we bring the show to a close tonight.
Yeah. Well, I guess I in summation, feel the fear and do it anyway. It's okay to acknowledge that that's there. It's good to know that it's there, to recognize it. Don't let it stop you from doing the work. That's the one big trick of the ego, and it's its last and final resort. And if we don't succumb to that, if we just go on anyway, and we turn it into enthusiasm and we turn it into excitement, then actually we're in very good stead for the work at large.
Love that. Great way to end the program. For all you guys out there, thank you for being a part of the show today. Thank you, Paul, from dialing into Peru. And actually, this is the best connection we've ever had on the show. It's been absolutely fantastic. I don't know what's
infrastructure is improving here.
Yeah, that's good to hear. But for those of you looking for the experience, tantraya.com, we left up those the links to the other places if you want to get into the mystery school and stuff. But don't hesitate to reach out. Paul has a great process to help you get all your stuff aligned and to be able to get there and to be able to do the process. So they've been used to working with people traveling from out of the country for a long time and handle it well. So if you're desiring, please check it out. Thank you for being part of Adventures in Truth today. Paul, hang out with me for just a minute while I do the close, and I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Jim.
Good to see you, brother. All right, brother. Everybody, have a wonderful day. Thank you for being here. Again, my buttons have rearranged. Give me a moment to find my button, and we'll go from there. Yes. Have a terrific day, you all. Thanks for being here. Such a groove. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Adventures in Truth Livecast. Please like, subscribe, and share. If you'd like to learn more about Jim's book, Fear is a Choice, Unraveling the Illusion of Our Separation from Love, check it out at www.fearisachoicebook.com. Also check out Moments of Truth, a new offering from Adventures in Truth. If you'd like to work with Jim, check out www.thesciencetransformation.com to book a session. Tune in live every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time and every Friday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Or look for our new releases and podcasts every Monday. Until next time, be well, and we'll see you again on Adventures in Truth Livecast.